Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monte Belmonte. Coming up, it's Live Music Friday, and we'll have the local bluegrass phenoms Poor Monroe, who are playing at Gateway City Arts in Holyoke live in the studio with us. And we'll talk with Michael League from the band Snarky Puppy, who are playing UMASS this Monday.
As it is a convergence of high holidays, we'll have an Easter egg throwdown, a blind tasting showdown between Cadbury Cream Eggs from England and those from the U.S. with NEPM News Department's Elizabeth Roman. But first, for Passover, the Wine Thunderdome.
Why is this wine tasting unlike all other wine tastings?
Oh my gosh, we're already off to the races.
Well, it's because it's Passover, and
We're leaving an empty glass for Elijah.
We should. But I'm also going to drink Elijah's, because I hate wasting things. We are at Provisions Longmeadow with Benson Hyde and Bruce McCamus here in the Wine Thunderdome. 2 wines enter, 1 wine leaves.
2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
That is the premise of the Wine Thunderdome, and we're drinking kosher wine.
'Tis the season.
Yes, it is. This is what, even if you celebrate Easter, probably what Jesus was drinking at the Last Supper.
Almost certainly.
And if you celebrate
you knew what I was
Ramadan,
doing.
you're not drinking any of this anyway. But we hope that you enjoy the show. The sun's going down real soon. You'll be able to eat and drink again in just a little bit.
Enough, it's spring.
I know. Benson, what are we going to start out with here?
So I think we should probably start with the Chateau Complet, which is Bordeaux Superior. It's a blend of Cabernet and Merlot, and it is kosher, and it is also Mevuchal. We can get into that later.
Okay.
But I think we should taste them and talk a little bit about the differences, and then we can dig into maybe what some of the reasons are that they taste a little different.
What does it mean when it says Bordeaux Superior? Is that just like it doesn't have any actual classification?
General region, yeah.
You can put Superior on it without having to go through any major hoops.
No, there are some differences.
Oh, okay.
A greater density of vines per hectare. So
Who's Hector?
And also higher alcohol content than just plain Bordeaux.
It has to be higher alcohol content?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah,
Note to self.
So a good wine to drink at noon.
You mean 3 or 7,
3 or 7.
depending when you're listening to this, or on the podcast at 9 in the morning. Bordeaux, the world's most famous blending region. For people who like to think that blended red wines are bad, you have not heard of Bordeaux, perhaps, but it is an important wine region, and just because you blend different grapes together does not make it bad.
In fact, it often makes it better.
Yeah. Initial thoughts on this one? It does taste boozy, smell and taste a little hot, as they say in the wine world.
It's dry.
It smells Bordeaux-y to me.
Raisiny.
A little cooked.
Tiny poopy.
What do you think of this?
I think it's delicious. If you're having brisket or something like that, I think it's
yeah.
going to go totally, incredibly well with it. Even if you were not doing a like a traditional Passover thing, and we're going to have say barbecue, I think it would be good with a dry rub beef brisket or something like that.
Kosher wine got a little bit of a bad name, and
Well, mostly because of Manischewitz.
Mostly because of Manischewitz, and because so this wine is Mevuchal, which in Hebrew I believe does mean cooked, or I don't speak Hebrew, but I'm pretty sure it means cooked or heated or something. And so what that means is that the wine literally has to be brought to boiling. In the past, that just means that you had to cook the wine, which makes the wine taste cooked. You know, those stewed fruits, it removes a lot of the freshness, it removes a lot of the depth of character. So for good reason, when you saw a wine that was Mevuchal, you knew that it was going to taste a certain way, and that generally if you're a wine person does not mean a good thing. Mm-hmm. Now they have technology where they basically run it through a pipe that flash pasteurizes it and then cools it almost immediately. So there you do get a little bit of a difference, and you might taste a little bit of some cooked fruit in here.
The stewed thing is a very good way to describe it.
Plenty of freshness. So it's changed the game as far as kosher wine goes.
It's almost mincemeat-y.
Yeah.
Dried fruit and nut, that combination is here.
Lamb shank,
Yeah.
going to go really well. You probably already had your Seder, but you may have a bunch of Seders this week, or, reorganizing your schedule around different Passovers that you're trying to accomplish with different people. So this first kosher wine
Kosher for Passover.
is kosher for Passover?
They're both kosher for Passover,
Because kosher and kosher for Passover are slightly different.
and you can be kosher for Passover, but not Mevuchal, I believe. Mevuchal, by cooking it, you basically make it able to be handled by non-Jews.
The Goyim, all of us.
Because so many people need to handle that bottle between the winemaker and me handing it to a customer in the store, that is where it becomes important for strict practicing Jewish people.
The name of this Bordeaux Superior that's kosher for Passover once again is?
Chateau Complet.
About how much is this? And then I'll interpret it for public radio.
approximately.
Real close to a Tubman.
Less than a Tubman. This is fun.
Should we move on to the Raconti?
Yes.
So here we're actually going to Israel.
Next year in Jerusalem, B'Shana Abba B'Yerushalayim.
And this wine is not Mevushal, but it is kosher for Passover.
That smells velvety.
Red velvet cake.
Definitely bigger, riper, richer fruit.
Where in Israel is this from? The Galilee?
Galilee.
Yeah, there's a lot of wines that are grown in the Galilee.
And that's actually one of the interesting things about trying to place a lot of these wineries. It's really hard to interpret wine maps of Israel because
The Israeli government just keeps changing the lines.
Exactly. They keep it complicated.
Which makes it a complicated decision if you're going to purchase this, depending on your politics. From a strictly wine tasting perspective, it's kosher for Passover, and it's grown in the Galilee.
Less stewed fruit,
More
freshness, berry juice forward.
And definitely.
Did you say Jews forward?
Yeah,
Juice.
Yeah.
Oh, Jews forward. I see. It's also Jews forward in the Galilee. I believe that Jesus is the winemaker of this one. His mother asked him to make it at a wedding. Made it out of water. Pretty good. Well done.
Save a lot on your costs that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, you also get a lot of that sort of like vanilla from the oak.
I think a lot of people don't think of Israel or the Holy Land as a wine region, but they do. There are some really
Very
delicious
serious.
wines that come out of there.
Very serious wine.
This
Seems strange because like Passover is a very long tradition, and how else would you have gotten wine into this?
But the market for Israeli wines is it's much smaller, like compared to other wine regions.
It is, but I think it's also one of those wine regions that's starting to get recognition. So I think we're going to see a lot more, and not all just kosher.
And you mentioned the grapes on this. It's just Cabernet, 100%?
Well, they're saying 100% Cabernet. I find that pretty much 90% of wines that say just Cabernet have something else blended in there.
But
Yeah.
Oh, the nose on this.
Yeah, this
I
one is-
just want to smell it the whole time.
this is a really excellent wine. It feels like I could be convinced that this is a French Cabernet for sure.
No, it definitely tastes old world.
Doesn't get much older world than the Holy Land.
No.
Going back to the Bordeaux, it now smells like cooked cherries.
Well, we better go back to the Bordeaux. 'Tis our duty.
I'll just top you up, Monte.
Thank you. Also, I said duty.
Every time.
Oh, you know what I'm getting now from the Bordeaux Superior, which I wasn't getting before? It's more of like a eucalyptus-y.
A little bit more cherry, too. I think
Yeah.
that cherry goes along with that menthol-y.
If you have allergies and you don't want to take a Hall's Mentolyptus,
These are the halls of medicine.
have a little bit of this Chateau Champlain.
I'm not sure.
Bordeaux
if
Superior.
As someone with active allergies right now, I don't think that's how that
How's it
works.
working? Do you feel better? You
I
sound
really
like you
wish
do.
I had been filming my reaction to you asking me that.
Couldn't you hear her reaction?
And the fact that wine has histamines in it, which actually gives people an allergic reaction.
I talked to an allergist about this once because my wife is one of those people that can drink white wine but cannot drink red wine. And I'm like, this makes no logical sense. It's
the
not
skins.
sulfites. It's most likely the histamines from the skins of red wine. The more contact with the skins, the red wine skins have more histamines. So if you can drink white wine and feel fine, but drink red wine and feel terrible, it may be an allergy in histamine.
But there's a similar allergy that happens with stone fruit, where like there's an enzyme in the skins where there are people who can't eat it raw, but you can have it cooked because the enzymes basically break down in a way that makes it doable. Same thing
So I
with
wonder if she can drink Mevushal wine.
That would be we got to get an allergist on and have that. We're going to have an experiment. I love it. It's not just a wine.
this wine
Thunderdome.
is cooked.
Yeah.
I actually am allergic to the histamines in wine. It sometimes makes me sneezy or congested, but it doesn't stop me.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's real dedication.
Benson just powers through.
Thanks for spit take number 2.
Shameless plug, Captain Jack of Captain Jack's Roadside Shack.
Shameless plug.
Makes great lobster rolls. Allergic to lobster.
Really?
Can't touch it or gets allergic. He has to really suit up. He does it
He's
for
like
you.
my dad.
Okay, here in the wine Thunderdome, Provisions, Long Meadow, Benson, and Bruce. 2 wines enter, 1 wine leaves.
One wine survives all 7 days of Passover.
Yeah, that's right.
And is consumed on all 7 days of Passover.
Better get 7 bottles.
Yeah.
The 2 wines are Chateau
tough.
Champlain, Bordeaux Superior,
I'm really curious to hear what people's...
product of France, Burgundy,
This
and
is tough.
the Recanati, which is a 100%-ish Cabernet from the Galilee in the Holy Land. Any
100% with an asterisk.
100%?
60% of the time, it works every time.
Bruce, what's your...
I think the Recanati. I like the freshness. Just a little too cooked, the Bordeaux.
I'm gonna have a little bit more of the Recanati. so I can recollect the Recanati.
Yeah.
You got a vote there, Khalees?
I agree. I like the softness in the Recanati as opposed to the Bordeaux. The Bordeaux is a little just more forceful, and I have already shown in all of these that I have been to that I'm not so into wines that decide to barge their way in.
That's 2 for the Recanati. Benson from Provisions.
I have to say, I think I would drink the Camplay. It has just a little bit more acidity to it, and I don't mind the slightly cooked fruit here. It almost gives it an aged character in a younger wine.
Kind of like you, Benson.
Yeah, kind of like me.
The wine's got a little grit to it. It's good. It's on its porch telling you its old stories.
Get off my lawn. Did you hear me? I said get off my lawn now.
So it's 1 for the Bordeaux Superior from Benson and 2 with Bruce and Khalees for the Recanati. I am surprised to say this because I am such a francophile when it comes to wine, but when I went back and forth a couple times, tasting them side by side, I'm going with the Recanati from the Galilee.
Oh, man.
The Recanati wins. Yo, now we got high fives in the wine
Well, I guess
Thunderdome.
I'll just have to take that Chateau Camplay home with me.
Oh, darn!
Lesson learned that if you are somebody that celebrates Passover and don't already know that there are more wines than Manischewitz that you can have, especially if you love wine, you definitely already know. But if you don't and want to up your Passover game, it's very easy to get some excellent wines at affordable prices that aren't made from Concord grapes and are the sweetest, weirdest, but somehow nostalgically most delicious tasting wine.
Although one of the things that I've heard from a number of my Jewish friends is that their mother still insists that Manischewitz is served.
Part of it is
Because it's part of the
nostalgia.
tradition.
Now, I will say that it's okay for you to mix things. Manischewitz is a relatively okay substitution for port in punches. So if your parents insist on having it at the table, there's a way to make it a little more manageable.
Yeah,
Turn
put
it
some
into a
blackberry
punch.
brandy into it.
That's not what I was thinking or recommending, but okay.
Also worth noting, Provisions is having an Italian wine fest. The Italians and the Jews, the two people very well connected, it seems. Speaking as an Italian and having so many Jewish friends and how many places we connect. But you're having Italian wine festival at Provisions in North Amherst coming up later this month.
Yeah, at the Mill District. We're on April 22nd. We are hosting 19 winemakers from all over Italy. It's going to support the International Language Institute, which they do some really great work in our communities. So we're hoping to show them some love. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be insane. Some of my favorite Italian winemakers are showing up for this, and it's going to be an incredible tasting event.
Coming up, an Easter egg throwdown, a blind tasting showdown between Cadbury Cream Eggs from England and the US with NEPM News Department's Elizabeth Roman. And it's Live Music Friday. We've got the band Poor Monroe live in the studio with us, practicing right outside.
Up next, we'll talk with Michael League from the band Snarky Puppy, playing UMASS this Monday. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on NEPM. Michael League is a 5-time Grammy Award-winning, 5-time nominated producer and musician based out of Catalonia, Spain. He's the creator and band leader of instrumental music ensembles Snarky Puppy and world music group Belmonte. Or correct me if I'm not saying that correctly.
That is correct.
All right. Oh, good old Spanish and its phoneticism. Founder of the record label and music curation Source Ground Up Music and artistic director of the Ground Up Music Festival.
Michael has worked with some of the most influential figures in modern music and was mentored by the legendary keyboardist Bernard Wright. As an instrumentalist and producer, he's worked with a diverse range of artists across multiple genres. And in 2020, alongside Ground Up Music Festival director Paul Lear, Michael formed the Ground Up Music Foundation, which seeks to advance music education incentives around the world. And the band he founded, Snarky Puppy, will be at UMASS Amherst on April 10th. Michael, thank you for joining us.
It is my pleasure to be here. How y'all doing?
Okay.
Great. For the uninitiated, Michael, get this question out of the way. Snarky Puppy, where did the name come from and why?
It's the most uninteresting story in the history of uninteresting band name stories. My
Which
brother
makes it interesting.
No, actually it doesn't. It makes it the opposite.
Oh, okay.
My brother was going to name a band something, and he was choosing between Snarky Puppy and Roaring Mary. It was an Irish traditional band that my brother was playing in when he was in his 20s, and they decided on Roaring Mary. And so I just kind of always thought the name Snarky Puppy was funny. When I first put the group together and we had our first gig, I had to give it a name of some sort. And I was kind of at a loss, and to be honest with you, it was the last thing I was thinking about was what the band would be called, but I didn't want to call it the Michael League Band, So So I called the band Snarky Puppy for our first gig because I didn't really think the band was going to last more than a show, you know?
Yeah.
And we now here we are like 20 years later. So who'd have thought?
20 years later and like 25 members, you're more of a collective than a band, I would say. From each video of yours I've seen, it incorporates some aspects, and I don't know if this is just for the videos that you put up online, of silent disco. Now, for folks who don't know, silent disco is this thing that I think is wicked cool, where you get a set of headphones and you've got the music and you get to dance, but nobody else knows what's happening. They just see you with your headphones, like bopping out. How does that affect your performances?
Well, I mean, we don't do that live. We only do that when we're making albums. That's like our method of making records is we go into a recording studio and we put the audience in headphones so that they're hearing the recording exactly as the band is hearing it. We did the silent disco thing, which is like wireless headphones, only one time, and that was fun. But the problem is that with that, sometimes you get like radio interference. So sometimes you'll just hear like all of a sudden instead of the music, and that was not super desirable. So we went back to what we were doing before, which is basically plugging the audience into the same audio source as the band. It's really cool because then, you know, as an audience, it's the only time really in your life, I think, unless you're a musician, where you would ever be able to hear the music exactly how it sounds before it's mixed and before it's mastered, exactly as the band hears it as they record.
That's a large undertaking to put like that many people, to have it live but be live like that. That's freaking cool.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work and a significant amount of stress and chaos, but it always works out in the end. You know, we've had good luck so far.
Does that method of studio recording influence the other ways that you perform, like when you go out live on the road?
No, I would say the opposite. I would say that the way that we play live influences the way that we make those recordings, because ultimately what we're doing when we make that recording is we're taking our live energy and our live dynamic, moving it into a recording studio, but still keeping the audience. It kind of makes us, in my opinion, I think it makes the band focus on what's really important about playing music, which is not about doing things perfectly, which is the temptation when you're in a recording studio, is to just think about everything being perfect all the time because you have complete control. But rather, you just know that you have one chance, and if you mess up, and who cares? And that's not that's not the most important thing about music. The most important thing about music is communication and creating something that has emotion and that reaches everyone in the room. And that's what we focus on when we make records.
We're speaking with Michael Lee from Snarky Puppy, who's playing at UMass Fine Arts Center on April 10th. And what is amazing here is the life of a touring musician. We're observing you going from what looks like some sort of indoor venue to, it's like I'm watching Spinal Tap while we're talking to you over this software that we're using to
the magic of technology.
Yeah, tell us what you're actually doing right now, Michael Lee from Snarky Puppy. I can hear you're like either a real human or GPS person in there too.
It's real. No Chat GPT bots driving yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. No, I'm just heading to the venue. We have sound check in a little bit. I'm heading over now from a brief little tennis match with my compadre Justin Stanton from the band.
Oh, nice.
It gets very easy being on tour to like wake up. You're on a bus, so you're like kind of always just like sitting around, and you wake up and you go eat and you sit around and you wait for sound check and then you sit around and you play the gig and then you go to bed. And it sounds like lazy in a certain kind of way, but actually it's really rough on your body to constantly be traveling in a bus or on planes or whatever. I mean, being on a bus is much better than being in like a 15-passenger van, which is what we did for about 11 years. And also from those 11 very, very, very hard years, a lot of us have permanent back conditions, and so Justin and I are trying to be proactive and get exercise every day. That's what
you think happening. It's a glorious life of a rock and roller, but no, it's you got to make time for tennis.
Yeah, it has its moments. Yeah, it has its moments, its glorious moments, but most of it is just kind of tedious and uninteresting. Not the sexiest lifestyle, despite what people might think.
Who won? Did you win or did your bandmate win?
Don't make me say that. I'm sitting next to him.
Oh, so you lost. Are you who he was playing tennis with?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's right there. Yeah, he must have won. I get it. Michael League from Snarky Puppy is playing at the UMASS Fine Arts Center on April 10th. You started your own foundation, education. You've started your own record label. And on that record label, you've released music from a bona fide legend, the now sadly late David Crosby. Tell me about your relationship with David Crosby, of course, of Crosby, Stills, Nash, and sometimes Why fame.
That's right. Well, we met because someone in his band shared some of our YouTube videos with him, and he kind of went on like a YouTube binge of our stuff and started tweeting it over and over and over like 5 times a day for like a week. And so finally I sent him a Twitter message. It's like, hey, thanks. Obviously I'm like a huge fan. I grew up with my parents kind of like, they would play Deja Vu on Christmas Day instead of Christmas carols. That's kind of like the kind of family that I grew up in. I think my dad is like, he was military and I think he always wanted to be a rock star, so he definitely, raised us on Zeppelin and the Beatles and that kind of stuff. So I'd always been a fan of David's. I tweeted him and he said, give me a call. And so he sent me his number and I called him and we talked for about an hour, like not really about anything. And then finally at the end, I was like, hey man, we're about to do this record called Family Dinner Volume 2 with special guests. And before I could really even finish, he just said, yes, I'll do it, whatever. So I said, okay, great, cool. So he came, for free to New Orleans. It was a charity album and participated on this record along with Jacob Collier and Laura Mvula and all of these different vocalists and instrumentalists also. And so he came and he did this record and we had such a good time doing it that he invited the band to stay for an extra day to record a song for a record he was making. And so we did that in the same studio. And then after that, he invited me to produce a record of his, which was basically just him and me. We had a couple guests on a couple songs, but it was really just like kind of the two of us in a studio for a few weeks. And over that time, we just kind of became like really, really, really close friends. I would almost say he was kind of like my weird, crazy grandpa, but the dynamic actually wasn't like that at all, only in terms of age. It was really like friendship, and after we made that first record, he asked me to be the music director of a new touring band that was called the Lighthouse Band with Becca Stevens and Michelle Willis, who recorded on the last song of that first record that I produced, Lighthouse. And so the four of us went on tour, for years. We were on tour, which was a blast. But when we were on tour, you'd call me Dad. because David was like a little kid, he was like kind of more like, I wouldn't say little kid, like a 17-year-old. You know what I mean? Like mischievous and playful and hilarious. And I was always the one that was kind of like, all right, everybody, let's keep it together here. Let's get back to rehearsal, whatever. So he would call me Dad, which was funny. So that's why I say it wasn't really like a typical relationship between like a typical like 32-year-old and 79-year-old kind of relationship. It was really great. He shared so much, gave me so much as a musician and as well as to Becca and Michelle. And it was a big part of our lives, and always will be.
So you play bass and you lead your band, which I feel is a little unusual.
It is.
Does that influence or change the way you think about composition, especially for a group this large?
No, I think that generally at a certain point, you stop defining your identity by your instrument. So I don't feel like Snarky Puppy's music is bassistic in any way, Now, if you think about Marcus Miller or something, Marcus Miller's music definitely is like very bassistic. He's a bass player. But Marcus also is like I was saying about those other musicians, he's so much more than a bass player. He's such a heavy composer. He plays bass clarinet, plays all these different instruments and thinks in a different way. But he's chosen to make his band a bass band, which I think is amazing because he does it beautifully. But Snarky Puppy is not that kind of band. I think really like anybody could kind of come in and play bass and it would be fine. Whereas you wouldn't want someone else playing bass in Marcus Miller's band.
No. One of the things I've noticed about the way that you guys play, it's like almost everybody's playing percussion. It's really cool. Like the violins are still playing percussion. Like every instrument is somehow percussive in a really interesting way that works very, very well.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. So your latest album is your last with Bernard Wright. What's new or interesting? What do you love about your latest album that you are excited to bring on this tour?
I think the band this band gets bored very easily. You know? Very.
Musician
very,
after my own heart.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you know, in the past, I used to feel sometimes that maybe it was like too easily. I'd be like, guys, come on, like, let's at least get the stuff right before we start changing it. You know, but now I feel the band has become this thing that's like, really just like every night we go on stage, we all know the music. What can we do with it that's different than we've ever done before, you know, and especially than last night, you know, but not in a way that's like forced, not like, you know, just being different to be different, but like understanding that with so much comfort with the material, you can like really move laterally to a great degree without losing the essence of the composition, you know? And so that's kind of our daily task is like, what can we get into tonight that we haven't gotten into before, you know? And these songs, because they were originally recorded by the band playing live versus like songs that are written and then you go into the studio and you're like, oh, well, we can overdub that later or whatever. Like these songs were written to be performed live, so they adapted to the stage like instantly, which it has not always happened in this band's case, you know.
Sweet, awesome. Thank you so much, Michael Leake, for joining us and chatting with us ahead of your show. I'm really looking forward to it, and have a great show tonight. Thanks for showing us the backstage.
Thank you very much.
Full disclosure, UMass Fine Arts Center is an underwriter of NEPM, and UMass holds the radio license for
WFCR?
WFCR, yes. Coming up, it's Live Music Friday. We've got the band Poor Monroe live in studio with us.
Up next, the Easter Egg Throwdown, a blind tasting showdown between the UK and USA over who's got the better Cadbury Cream Eggs with the NEPM News Department's Elizabeth Roman.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on NEPM.
Good Friday to you.
It's not a Good Friday because you're forcing me to listen to Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber.
I love this. This is Jesus Christ Superstar.
It's his only good musical.
When I was a kid, I went to Catholic Mass on Good Friday, and they tried to make it multimedia, and they showed all these graphic depictions of Jesus being crucified, and it traumatized me. So my mom said...
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
For it to traumatize you?
You don't have to go to Mass anymore on Good Friday, but you do have to listen to Jesus Christ Superstar on Good Friday. And that was a strange upbringing with my Catholicism.
That is an interesting compromise to make.
Yeah, and now I still love, and the family still listens to Jesus Christ Superstar. At some point during Easter weekend, my son, my youngest, believed that John Legend, who played him in the live version on NBC, was Jesus for the preponderance of his first few years of life.
Definitely more accurate depiction than what you usually get in Catholic churches.
That is true. It is Easter weekend, and we have with us in the studio New England Public Media's Elizabeth Roman. We have been working as office mates since we got here in January, and we've been having all sorts of fun, informal conversations. And at some point, early on in our time here, it came up that Cadbury eggs are something that you enjoy, right, Elizabeth?
I do.
And that I and Khalees both said, you got to get the Cadbury Cream Eggs from the UK as opposed to the USA because they're made with better ingredients. They're not owned by Hershey. You know, there's a lot of debate as to like who owns the Cadbury in England at this point versus Hershey, and those companies are all problematic 6 ways from Easter Sunday.
Chocolate is a thing that is difficult to do ethically no matter where you are.
But we made the claim, Khalees and I, that the UK Cadbury eggs were better than the Hershey-based US Cadbury eggs. And we are going to go, it's kind of like an Easter egg Thunderdome right now.
It is.
And taste this on the air. Tell me about your love and affinity towards candy and these particular types of candy, Elizabeth Roman.
Well, I'm an ice cream girl through and through, but
and you used to review for the Republican.
I did for many years. I had an ice cream column for like 7 years. But with that comes, offers to try candy as well. I've always loved all Easter candy. I'm a huge Peeps fan. I know some people find them disgusting, but I love them. And
can I just interrupt real
yes.
quick? You are wearing Peeps on your head right now. Lost on the radio listener. You'll be able to see it on the socials later.
It's
but continue.
So cute.
Continue.
So I love all sorts of chocolate, and I'm just not that picky. I know some things are better quality or whatever, but like I like a Hershey Kiss. I like a Crunch Bar. I like regular American candy. So I think it's gonna be just as good. Maybe different, but I think it'll be just as good.
Do you ever eat any like the fancy schmancy hippie candy, like 95% cacao, like dark chocolate?
Absolutely not. What is the point of that? That's no longer joyful, like super sweet, cringy, almost like tooth hurting.
Yeah.
sweetness, and
I
that's what I'm
expect
looking
my-
for. I'm
I
an
expect
American
my
kid,
teeth
you
to
know what I
hear it
mean?
After this.
All right. Our director, Tony Dunn, is the control. Tony has taken and unwrapped the UK Cadbury eggs that I got at Brits R Us in Northampton, right next to our old radio station. And I looked at their Facebook page. They still have a very small amount of UK version of Cadbury products left, but not that much, if this is something that interests you. One of these is the UK Cadbury egg, and one of them is the US Cadbury egg. We don't know. Only Tony knows. We will taste them. We will review them. And Tony will tell us what we ultimately come out as, which is the best Cadbury egg.
The suspense.
The suspense is killing me.
Go. Do I just grab one?
Number 1.
Okay, here goes.
This is container number 1.
Elizabeth
Got
Roman
it.
grabbing an egg out of container number 1. I have got an egg out of container number 1. Khalees is getting an egg out of container number 1. Okay.
Ooh, these
I
are
almost
ready
want to
go.
look at them both at the same time to see if I can tell. But I'm just
to see if you could tell by the
Yep,
appearance?
but I'm just going to eat it.
Let's just go for it.
Okay.
It's so sweet.
It's pretty sweet. For those who don't have Cadbury cream eggs often, it's a chocolate egg, and inside is a cream and a yellow, so it looks like you're eating like a hard-boiled egg.
Right.
I actually try to hard-boil my eggs so that they have the consistency of Cadbury cream eggs. I'm pretty good at it. 7 minutes.
Good egg. 7 minutes, I do a 6-minute egg.
Okay, cool.
I like it a little bit
Extra gooey.
yolkier.
Well, mine is yolky. I guess it depends on your stove. All right.
Okay.
Thoughts, Khalees?
It is so sweet.
Yes, I myself love all the bitter, dark, hippie chocolate. So, yeah, we know that Elizabeth Roman does not. Your thoughts, Elizabeth Roman?
It is very sweet. It tastes like what I'm used to, so I
think this
yeah,
is
I
the
think
US
this
egg?
Is, I think this is the U.S. But yeah, I haven't had one since last year, so I waited to have one now, so it'd be super special. Very, very sweet, gooey inside, nice chocolate. I'm happy with it. No complaints.
Sometimes I get a weird chemically taste from some like mainstream candies in the U.S., and I'm not getting that right now.
Yeah,
so there's a part of me that wonders if this is the UK egg. Okay, here we go.
Number 2.
Elizabeth Roman grabs the egg from director Tony Dunn in bowl number 2.
Okay.
They color-wise, they look almost identical.
Yeah, they look the
There's
same.
nothing telling about the color of the two of these that would lead you to believe that there's any difference between them. Well,
The design is the same too.
same design with this, what looks like a star that you would follow on Jesus' other big holiday.
Well,
imprinted on there.
We didn't
I
get
feel
any kind
like-
of like palate cleanser. No.
There is
nothing.
Aquavit that we'll talk about just a little bit here on the table. We could use that.
Actually, like this one's a little more scarred, and I don't know if that's just because of the one that I got, but like, there's okay. We'll just
Let's dig in.
Okay, let's do it.
Oh, the inside looks much different. Mine does at least. A lot more of the yellow, and the goopiness is more crystalline as opposed to creamy.
No, this is the U.S. one.
This is the U.S. one.
This
I
is
would
clearly
have to
the
agree.
U.S. one.
Yeah, it is.
Like the minute you get into the chocolate, it starts tasting like plastic. This tastes like cream.
Okay, let's not get crazy. I wouldn't say it tastes like plastic.
It's a mouthfeel on the chocolate thing. Like in like this, the inside of the U.S. one tastes better, but the chocolate tastes worse. Like I don't know for me.
If you look at it when you open them, the thickness of the chocolate on the first one it's much thicker. I don't know if you're having that same experience, but mine is much thicker.
My thicknesses are about the same.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a thing I was
think...
gonna say about like the glossiness of the chocolate when you're looking at the two of them. Like there's a shine to the second one where I'm just sort of like that doesn't look like when you make chocolate. Like when you get like, you know, like baker's chocolate and you're making like ganache or something, like it's not. There's a certain thing that happens and like that. Anyway,
I
The
wouldn't
second
know.
one
I'm
is
describing
giving me
it
a
so
weird,
well for radio.
is giving me a strange throat burn.
What?
A little
You guys
bit.
are so dramatic.
Not like it's poisoning me, but like a little heat.
No, it's the mouthfeel of the chocolate for me. Like
Yeah.
the mouthfeel of the chocolate on the second one feels like American, like over the counter got by it. Like,
But we don't know for sure.
We don't.
If one
No.
was the
I'm probably
was
wrong.
the UK version, or if 2 is the UK version. Which one do you think is UK, and which one do you think is better, Khalees?
I think the first one is UK, but I'm probably wrong.
Elizabeth Roman.
I think the first one is UK. As far as better, I mean, I like them both.
I will say that I am not noticing a vast difference between the two of them, and I, in my mind, thought there would be a huge difference between the two of them. The only real difference I'm getting is the texture of the cream, which even that is kind of evened out a little bit when I gave it a little more massage with my tongue. Maybe too graphic a Cadbury egg description for you right there. And the little bit of the throat burn. Director Tony Dunn, reveal to us which egg is which.
What was your pick, Monte?
For better? I think
No, for UK or US.
I think UK is I also think it's the first one. I think we all think that.
You are unanimously correct.
Woo! So we can at least tell the difference.
That's awesome.
But I don't think there's a vast difference in actual taste.
There is a distinct difference in the taste of these two chocolates.
The chocolate, yes. The cream,
the cream,
no.
Yeah.
The chocolate, yes. The cream, no.
But in both cases, I feel like the cream overpowers the chocolate anyway.
Right.
So the chocolate's not that much more important. Now, talk to me about the price of a Cadbury egg for the British version versus the American, because I got mine 2 for $2.50.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to talk about price on
this is public media.
I'm sorry.
You're supposed to be the example for us, Elizabeth Roman.
I'm not saying go buy it.
We're the new kids who get in trouble. How would Kai Rizdal talk about it on Marketplace?
No.
They are expensive if you try to get the
Okay.
imports from Brits R Us. So duly noted. Elizabeth Roman, we've been looking for this, looking forward to this since we moved into the office with you. Thank you for doing this with us.
Thank you.
So much fun. We hope to do more fun candy and other food tastings with you in the future.
I'm happy to be here, and I got some candy.
And now
out of
you have
it,
2
so
eggs to
That's
eat.
great. That's right.
Coming up, we'll be joined live in studio on Live Music Friday by the band Poor Monroe. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on NEPM. Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. It's Live Music Friday, where we try to find a band that is local and playing in the area, or a band that's coming to our local area to play, and we are thrilled to have in the studio with us Poor Monroe. I happened to be at an event with comedian Jimmy Tingle on Saturday night, and he wanted to go to the Waitley Diner really late at night, and then I got invited to a party even later after that, and I show up at the party, and who is there but the guitarist behind Poor Monroe, Eric Lee, who joins us in the studio now, and you had at the party that was Easter themed, delicious gravlax.
Oh yeah.
And we have the recipe that we will share on our social medias or on our website. So if you want to make Eric Lee's gravlax, and we're also going to taste some aquavit because we've already had Cadbury eggs and wine on the show today. Why not have the aquavit that I mentioned? But let's introduce the band, and then we'll hear a song.
All right, so this is the members of Poor Monroe. We have Sean Davis on the guitar. Over there, the Jewel of Worcester.
Nice.
As I know him as. The Jewel of Worcester. We have John Benjamin on mandolin from Spofford, New Hampshire. And we have Chris Boucher from Northampton, Massachusetts.
All right.
Gareth Buckley is not with us. He's our bassist.
We couldn't fit him in the studio. It's pretty small here.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
Play
us.
us a tune.
On that resurrection morning, when the trumpet of God shall sound, we shall rise, we shall rise. When those saints come rejoicing, and no tears will ever be found, we shall rise, we shall rise.
We shall rise.
Hallelujah.
We shall rise.
Amen. We shall rise on that resurrection morning when those prison bars are broken. We shall rise. We shall rise. On that resurrection morning, blessed thought it is to me. We shall rise. We shall rise. When our fathers and mothers and loved ones will see, we shall rise, we shall rise.
We shall rise.
Hallelujah.
We shall rise.
Amen. We shall rise on that resurrection morning when those prison bars are broken. We shall rise, we shall rise. On that resurrection morning, we will meet him in the air. We shall rise, we shall rise. I will meet the loving Savior in a home so bright and fair. We shall rise, we shall rise.
We shall rise.
Hallelujah.
We shall rise.
Amen. We shall rise on that resurrection morning when those prison bars are broken, we shall rise. We shall rise.
That is the band Poor Monroe, Eric Lee, Sean Davis, Chris Boucher, and John Benjamin.
We didn't even ask for an Easter song, and we just got one.
An
It's
Easter
perfect.
song. The best part about that one was like you got all your instruments there, the guitars and the banjo and the mandolin, all like you're ready to launch. It's like you're in a club waiting for the beat to drop. And you didn't play him at all. You just sang through that whole song.
Little surprises.
What got you interested as younger people in the kind of old timey bluegrass music? We can go right down the line. Eric.
For me, it was my mom grew up in Iowa, and so I heard her. She was the organist in her church, so I heard a lot of the hymnal music. And then I started learning fiddle, and then I heard the Old and in the Way. I heard the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Circle B Unbroken. And anytime I heard Vassar Clements play, I wanted to be him, So, and I just love that, and so that's got me into it.
Banjoist Chris Boucher.
Yeah, I grew up around here and started playing in church around here. So I played guitar, but then my dad brought me to a place I bet we all know called the Conway Inn, where bluegrass players play around the pool table, and it fused some of the stuff I knew about music with this great sense of community, and there was no looking back for me.
Love it. Mandolinist John Benjamin.
Yeah, I came to bluegrass a little bit late in the game compared to a lot of people. Like in my 20s, I grew up playing trumpet and jazz band in school, listening to a lot of different kinds of music, and kind of discovered some of the more progressive players in my 20s, like Bela Fleck and Sam Bush and guys like that. And that really hooked my ear, and I was lucky enough to make it up to some of those big festivals out where I grew up in Colorado, like Rocky Grass and Telluride Bluegrass, and that just completely blew my mind and introduced me to so many artists, and then really hooked me to start going back in time and hearing all the roots, and I've never looked back since then.
Guitarist Sean Davis.
My dad played in a band and still plays in a band. Slowgrass. Shout out to Slowgrass. SLOGRASS. Slow stands for sustainable, local, and organic. He played, and he's a great music listener, and he had tons of old records, Beatles, old jazz stuff, but he loved listening to bluegrass, and it just became a fun thing to play after I learned guitar.
So it seems like not a one of you plays just one instrument.
Nope.
It's diversity we absolutely encourage, but do you know amongst the 4/5? Well, no, we'll just do 4 because there's only 4 of you in studio today. How many instruments do you play?
Oh man, 1, 2, 3.
Honestly,
4,
the
5,
only
6.
instruments I say I play are guitar and mandolin.
That's still 2.
That's still
You play guitar.
I play some guitar. I'm not going to pick up my trumpet. I'm going to be honest. It's been a while since I've practiced, so.
I like to think I play bass, but bass players don't think so.
Very
true. I play 4, counting bass, which I've gotten paid to play bass, so
you're
guess
a
that
professional
counts.
bass player.
And that was after the gig. They paid me, so I get
Accidentally
so that's
professional bass.
So that's 4. And then Chris.
I mean, I play banjo. I started on guitar, and I play a little bit, and I mean a little bit of accordion.
All right. It's a lot of instruments. Well,
we're pulling into the band, Chris.
We're talking to the band Poor Monroe. They're playing Gateway City Arts in Holyoke tomorrow, Saturday night.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please do come out to that.
Should be fun. Let's hear another tune.
All right. This is an old tune that we are going to be putting on our new record. It's a Monroe Brothers. It's called Little Girl and the Dreadful Snake. It's a cautionary tale. Don't play with snakes.
Unless they're non-venomous and, have a good temperament.
Or your pet.
Exactly. Plenty of snakes.
Don't play with unfamiliar snakes.
We'll go into
Talk
venomous
to
snake
John first.
ID, details. Anyway.
Our darling wandered far away while she was out at play. Lost in the woods, she couldn't hear a sound. She was our darling girl, the sweetest thing in all the world. We searched for her, but she couldn't be found. I heard the scream ran as fast as I could through that dark and weary wood, but I reached our darling girl too late. Oh, I began to sigh, I knew that soon she'd have to die, for the snake was warning me close by. I held her close to my face. She said, Daddy, kill that snake. It's getting dark, tell Mommy goodbye. I heard the scream of our little girl far away. Hurry, Daddy, there's an awful dreadful snake. I ran as fast as I could through that dark and weary wood, but I reached our darling girl too late. To all parents I must say, don't let your children stray away. They need your love to guide them along. Oh God, I pray we'll see our darling someday. I can still hear the voice around our home. I heard the scream of our little girl far, far away. Hurry, Daddy, there's an awful dreadful snake. I ran as fast as I could through that dark and weary wood, but I reached our darling girl too late.
Did she die?
Yeah.
Oh! I thought you were going to resurrect at the end like that other song.
I mean, there's a chance. There's a chance.
Oh.
It's left in
Hey,
there.
we got one more song. There's some hope.
There's always hope.
There's always hope.
Well, we do
There's
only
not
have
always snakes, though.
Yeah, we only have about a minute left. But you did, Eric Lee, bring in the aquavit that you made with your Gravlax recipe that will be available on our website. We want to give a quick shout out to the aquavit before we wrap up the show here.
Yeah, it's actually pretty exclusive, and don't tell my girlfriend Linnea because she doesn't know that I brought this. This is from Norway.
Live on air.
Yeah,
we won't. Nobody listens. Nobody listens.
Well, it's from Norway. This is a summer aquavit, and they have specific aquavits for every particular occasion and dish that you could imagine, and I love it. And I use that for the Gravlax that you've had.
Yeah,
so
and they were exquisite. It was a nice midnight snack after a midnight snack with a comedian and former lieutenant gubernatorial candidate in Greenfield on Saturday night. So we have like a minute and a half left. Can you do one of those, like, play us out through the end of the show while we do the credits?
Sure.
Poor Monroe, who are playing at Gateway City Arts in Holyoke on Saturday night.
Random aside, throwing out that it's Bandcamp Friday, so maybe check out where you can get their music. I'm saying maybe, I'm not saying to go.
You have to, yes. If you wanted to go to Bandcamp Friday, play us out, Poor Monroe.
Oh, home days. Oh, home days. Won't you spare me over till another year? Well, what is this that I can't see? Ice cold hands take hold of me. Oh, this is death, none can excel. Oh, the key to heaven or hell. Oh, home days. Oh, home days. Won't you spare me over till another year?
Thanks for listening to the Fabulous 413. I'm Monte Belmonte.
I'm Clee Smith. We'll see you on Monday.